Hi everyone, Heather here with Astrology with Heather.com, and I am back with another weekly forecast. And this one is for Monday, April 22nd, all the way through to Sunday, April 28th of 2019. And today, or this week in the astrology, we do actually have quite a bit going on. On Monday, coming into the start of the work week, we're going to have the sun in a really tight conjunction with Uranus and Taurus. And this is the first time that the sun will come into a conjunction with Uranus in the sign of Taurus. The sun actually comes into conjunction with Uranus once per year, and last time around it was when Uranus was still in the sign of Aries, I believe. And so this time around it's happening with the sun in the sign of Taurus, and so this is going to be a really powerful energy highlighting the change that needs to happen in the area of our life being impacted by Uranus transiting through the sign of Taurus over the course of the next 7.5 years before Uranus moves into the sign of Gemini. And so this is going to be a really powerful week where we're going to start to feel very frustrated with some of the more stable, stagnant energies where we're sort of feeling a little on edge about the areas that are the most stable, the most monotonous, the most safe and secure, where we want to sort of shake things up and rebel against the way things were and the way that we have been doing things up until this point. The other thing that's going to be going on is that Pluto will be stationing to go retrograde, and this is going to continue to highlight that energy of Saturn, Pluto in the South Node, which we've been talking about for weeks now because it's been highlighted time and time again all month long. I've been predicting for a while now that this time period would be a precursor to the energy that's going to be coming up in January of 2020 when we have that exact conjunction between Saturn and Pluto, which will be highlighted by an eclipse, which is also has to do with the North and South Node. Those are the eclipse points. And so this month we're seeing in our own personal lives the areas where we really need to deconstruct, where we need to restructure, where we need to let go of fear and anxiety and any energy on an internal level, especially this week, that is holding us back from really becoming who we want to be out in the world. It's holding us back from acting in our true power, right? So when we live in fear, when we live, based on our past traumas and wounds and, negative experiences, those experiences, they even if they're only operating on a subconscious level, they have power over us, right? Because they dictate our behavior, they dictate our decisions, they dictate the way that we're going to move about the world, the way that we're going to communicate with others. And so it does, to a certain extent, disempower us. It prevents us from being who we truly are. It prevents us from doing the things that maybe we truly want to do because we're afraid of what other people might think. We're afraid of repeating history. We're, just afraid in general. And especially with the 3 karmic planets being involved, this could have to do with fears and anxieties that we came in with. Fears and anxieties that are aiming to protect us from repeating the same mistakes that we made in previous lifetimes, but we're not going to repeat those mistakes again. And so this is a time where we can really dig deep and figure out why we feel anxiety around a certain situation or idea, or why we have this sort of fear that's underlying that has nothing to do with anything we've experienced as far as we're conscious of on a physical sort of level. This would also be a really great time to undergo some sort of, psychotherapy, or to do some sort of past life regression, because these are the karmic planets that do have an association with our past life traumas and experiences, and that's being highlighted by Pluto. Pluto rules psychology. It rules our deep inner world. It rules things that are repressed and suppressed and buried deep within our psyche. And when Pluto stations to go retrograde, this karmic intense energy becomes much, much stronger. And this is a pivotal moment, especially for people who have a lot of energy in the fixed signs, which are Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Capricorn. No, sorry, not the fixed signs, the cardinal signs, Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. And then also Scorpios, because Scorpios are ruled, and Scorpio risings in particular are going to be ruled by Pluto. And so anytime Pluto does something interesting in the skies, anytime it stations to go retrograde or direct, Scorpio rising and Scorpio sun sign people are going to feel the impact more so than the other signs. And so this is going to be impacting the cardinal signs more predominantly, especially if you have your sun, moon rising toward the end degrees of the cardinal signs, anywhere from 20, I would say from 20 to 30 degrees really, but especially 20 to 26 degrees is where you're going to be feeling this the most. So if you have your sun, moon, rising, or your personal planets, which would be Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, within that realm in the cardinal signs, you're going to be really heavily impacted, and you're going to feel this intensity of this Pluto stationing to go retrograde. And it might bring up and dredge up some of your deep fears, deep wounds, anxieties. You could feel very intense. This is a time when people might be feeling very overwhelmed on a psychological level, or you might be feeling like you're experiencing some sort of psychological crisis. And the hallmark of these Pluto transits are that it usually is very deep and very psychological unless something else is going on. And in this particular circumstance, Saturn makes things very physical. So you might be going through something on a psychological level, but there might be an actual physical, tangible representation of what you're going through that's showing up in your life as well. So you might be going through a very physical restructuring and purging, but you might be going through a psychological process of letting go of any beliefs, anxieties, fears, dynamics that no longer serve you and that are just holding you back and stripping you of your power. And so this is going to be a really powerful and an important moment. And when Pluto goes retrograde, with all planets that go retrograde, the energy becomes more internalized, and it's kind of like a review process that you're going through during this time. With Pluto, it's already internal, it's already psychological, it just amplifies that energy and makes it much more intense. So it amplifies psychic energy, it amplifies power struggles and control issues, but more on an internal level, and the way that we deal with it psychologically, emotionally, and internally. It really amplifies intense emotions like fear and anxiety around certain situations that maybe we've been avoiding looking at and avoiding addressing in a more overt way. And the hallmark of a Pluto crisis, especially when Saturn's involved too, because these two planets both have this sort of isolating effect, the hallmark of a Pluto crisis and a Pluto transit is usually that we have to suffer through it alone. And it's not necessarily, again, that something's going on externally. It could be more of an internal crisis and restructuring and having to deal with a lot of old stuff, old baggage. But the thing that usually occurs is that because it is so deep and so psychological, even when there's something external going on as well, that other people don't fully understand what it is that you're going through, because they can't, because it's very personal and very transformational. And so you feel like you're going through this crisis and you're reaching out to others for help, and they might not even see that you're struggling. They might see what's going on externally and the transformations that you're making and all this progress that's going on in your life, and they might say, oh wow, he or she is perfectly fine. I don't understand why they're so upset and why they're reaching out for help. They have everything going for them, right? Because it could be that there's not really, the external manifestation could actually even appear to others as being very positive if there is one, and the internal dialogue, the internal process that's going on is really where we struggle and we suffer, and where it, especially in this moment in time this week. So this is occurring on Wednesday, but you're going to be feeling this all week long, especially Monday through Friday, especially for those who are going to be impacted more greatly by this transit. The energy here is really going to be highlighting in a big, huge, powerful way what we need to let go of, what we need to detox from our lives, and the dynamics, the power dynamics in our lives that are no longer serving us. It's also going to show us what we truly need, want, and desire in the area of life being impacted, what we need, want, and desire on a psychological level. It's going to connect us with our truth. And it's also going to bring the truth out into the open and up to the surface once Pluto goes direct. And so there's a lot going on here with this Pluto retrograde, but it happens once per year. And so unless you're being impacted more directly, you might feel it as more of a minor influence, because it is such a faraway planet. It's the farthest if you don't count Eris. And so the influence is more subtle, it's more beneath the surface, it's slower and longer lasting, but this is a powerful moment where Pluto becomes strengthened, and we feel the energy of Pluto much more strongly, and especially with that configuration going on. We've already been seeing a lot of highlight of Pluto and Saturn in the South Node. This is just another one, and then next week we'll have Saturn stationing, and that's going to bring another layer of energy and another layer of intensity around these circumstances. And so that's really the main gist of what's going on this week. We have that powerful energy with Uranus, and then we have this powerful energy of Pluto. So this is a week where for some people there might be a lot of energy around change, around doing things that are new and exciting, and also a lot of energy around letting go of outdated fears, beliefs, situations in our lives that are not serving us anymore and that are really holding us back from rebelling and from doing things in a more exciting, innovative way, and holding us back from embracing change. Because when Pluto is really strong in the skies, especially when it's in retrograde, we might really want to be holding on to control of what's going on in our situation. So there's a fear of loss of control that we also have to deal with, and a fear of surrender and letting go, because we don't know what comes next. And so that's the main gist of it. And so I'm going to go through the energy for all 12 zodiac signs per usual. If you haven't already done so, I highly recommend watching my video where I talk about how to make the best use of these general forecasts for all 12 signs, because they give a lot of tips and tricks for you guys to get more out of these, free readings that I do here on YouTube and all of that. And so it's definitely worth watching, and so that way you can figure out what to focus on and how to interpret these forecasts in a way that's going to be more specific and more detailed for you. And so and then before we get into the forecast, I'm going to bring my mic closer because it's a little echoey in here. I need to get some of those foam things, for the room. And we got to de-wallpaper and paint first. And also I got a new camera, and it's like not focusing on my face very well. So I apologize for whatever's going on there. But yeah, so eventually after we repaint, I'm going to get some of those foam things so it's not so echoey. So I do apologize for that. But anyway, before we get into the forecast for all 12 signs, and you know what? I forgot to do this image too. So that's the astrology of the conjunction. And luckily the conjunction's happening in a wide sort of trine with Jupiter. It's not really heavily aspected, the conjunction between the Sun and Uranus. And those of you, by the way, who were born with the Sun in Taurus at the first couple of degrees, you're going to be feeling this the most, and this is going to be part of your solar return. And so I did do a solar return forecast, and that leads me into my announcements. If you are a Taurus or an Aries sun sign, your solar return forecast is now available on my website. The link is down in the description below. And this is a very detailed, very unique forecast. No other astrologer that I know of is doing a forecast like this for the solar return year. So this is for your own personal solar year, beginning and ending with your birthday, 2019 through 2020. And there's very specific indicators for dates and specific timing of influences based on your birthday. You don't need your birth time if you don't have that. And this is specifically for your sun sign. And so the sun sign forecasts for Aries and Taurus are available now. And especially if you're a Taurus sun sign born within the first few degrees of Taurus. So if you're born this week, this is going to be a really pivotal year with a lot of change going on. And so you can learn about that in the forecast. The other thing that I want to mention is that I'm doing my webinar all about Saturn, Mastering Saturn, which is going to be live on May 11th, so in just a couple of weeks here. And I'm really excited for it because we're going to talk about Saturn and how it influences us in our personal birth charts, the challenges that we face and how to embrace those challenges and work with the energy instead of against it. And we're going to be talking about how to navigate our own personal Saturn cycles, because everyone is in a certain phase of their Saturn cycle at any given point in time. And so this is a lifelong lesson that you can take with you in order to navigate the cycles of Saturn for the rest of your life and to face those challenges head on so they don't sort of overpower you or become overwhelming or too challenging and too burdensome. And we'll be getting into that in the webinar. And then finally, if you want to book a reading with me, you can always do so. The link is down in the description below. I've added a new reading option, which is an urgent single question reading. I've been looking to do something where I can get people in faster who need immediate assistance, who are having something really crazy going on in the moment, because my wait time for readings is always several weeks. And so sometimes you just can't wait. You need something right now. You need answers. And I wanted to do that in a way where it's short and concise and it's really addressing your specific problem so that you're getting what you need very quickly, but I'm also not putting myself even farther behind when it comes to the other readings and people who have been waiting for quite some time. And so I feel like this is a really good way to utilize that and to give people what they need in the moment without really making it so, other people are having to wait even longer, or I'm having to work on the weekends extra, which I already do anyway. So that's what that is. So you can book a reading down in the description below if you need something right now because you're going through a Pluto crisis. We can do that too. And so let's get into the forecast for all 12 zodiac signs. I wish that this camera, I've been playing with it. See, if I'm like really close, it kind of zooms in on me. I don't know, maybe it's too bright in here. But anyway, let's get into the forecast for all 12 signs, beginning with Aries and Aries rising. And I always recommend that you listen to your rising sign, your sun sign, and then if you want to, you can listen to your moon, but that's going to be more internal. So you're going to have to sort of translate that to what's going on subjectively and emotionally in your head. So anyway, for Aries and for Aries rising, the Sun conjunction to Uranus is highlighting the need to change something when it comes to the way that you create your resources. This could bring a disruption to your resources this week that, again, it highlights this, right? So looking at sources of frustration around finance, looking at disruptive energies around your finances and your material wealth, and what that's trying to show you about your financial stability and the long-term impact of Uranus and Taurus through your second house, which is going to bring change to the way that you create resources and the way that you deal with resources. This could also bring an unexpected shocking event that either brings in a lot of money or causes you to have to pay extra money that you weren't expecting. So unexpected, very shocking, surprising, unusual expenses can come up, but money can come in in just as shocking and unusual of a way. So this can bring disruption, and it highlights disruption to your finances. And really what this is showing you is where you need to become more sovereign and independent, and where you need to rebel against the status quo and do your own thing when it comes to the way that you create your resources and the way that you budget your money and the way that you utilize and invest your resources moving forward. For the Pluto stationary position, especially for Aries rising people or Aries sun sign people who have their sun, moon, rising at those sort of middle to end degrees of the sign of Aries, so again, anywhere from 20 to 26 degrees, you're going to be feeling this Pluto station really intensely. And so this can bring up power struggles around your work, your job, your career, power struggles around you and the way that you create and engage in your energy, the way that you act on your own self-interest out in the world. This could bring somebody who's maybe working behind the scenes, working against you, plotting and planning against you when it comes to your work. It might bring that out into the open, or you might sense that something's going on there and you need to address it. This is also going to bring up any fears, anxieties, deep-seated wounds or traumas or insecurities, and a lot of intense energy beneath the surface on a psychological level around your work, around your career, around your public status, and your ability to act out in the world in the way that you truly desire. And so if you're not in alignment with your true needs and desires when it comes to your work, if it's not fulfilling to you, if you're not in alignment with your truth, that's going to come up, and that's going to be a bit of a struggle. And it might be that you have to let go of a job, you have to let go of a certain work situation, and that's going to come up and bubble up. And so there's going to be potentially fear of loss of control or fear of moving on that could come up for you, even though you know that this situation in your job or this project, it's beyond its expiration date now. And that's, again, especially true for Aries, sun, moon, rising between 20 and 26 degrees. And then for Taurus and for Taurus rising, this energy is happening in your sign, Taurus. And so as I mentioned before, if you are a Taurus sun sign and you were born this week in particular, you're going to have Uranus conjunct your sun this year for the solar return. And so this is going to be a huge, major, life-changing year for you, where you're going to be rebelling against the status quo. You're going to be rebelling against an old state of being. And if your rising sign is within those first few degrees too, if you're a Taurus rising with your sun within the first 5 degrees, 6 degrees, I think, or no, it might even go to 7 this year. It'll be getting close if it's not exactly there. Then you're going to be going through a lot of personal change in the way that you act out in the world, in your identity, your whole projection of energy, the way that you present yourself, your connection to your purpose and your path is going to change very intensely over the course of this year. And so again, for Taurus sun signs, if you want to learn more about how this solar return energy affects you for the entire year ahead, you can purchase your solar return forecast. The link is down in the description below. It's over 2 hours long with PDF files that help you to really get a very nuanced, detailed interpretation with timing and everything like that. But for everyone else, even if you're not within those first few degrees, this energy is going to be really impacting you. This is going to mark the onset of a time of personal change where you're anything that is really suppressed rebellion that has been sort of latent and hiding beneath the surface, especially rebellion against monotony and against the really stable, static structures, the really stable, static situations in our lives, the most comfortable, complacent energies and situations and dynamics in our lives that have been real, that we really thought were going to stand the test of time. They're going to be up for change. They're going to be up for revolution. We're going to have to think on our toes, or you're going to have to think on your toes, I guess, because I'm not a Taurus, but you're going to have to think on your toes and do things in new, exciting, innovative ways. You're not going to want to continue with the status quo. You're going to feel frustrated if you keep going with the way things are in your life in all areas. And so this is a really important time where your relationships will be impacted, your family life will be impacted, your career will be impacted, your financial situation could even be impacted by this. You're going to be going through a major change, and the hallmark of this change is that you need to, it's liberation, it's freedom, it's sovereignty, it's doing things in your own independent way without worrying about financial stability and security, without worrying about disrupting the status quo, without worrying about what other people think about what it is that you're doing your own thing in your own unique way. And so you might be feeling more anxious, more geared up, more tense around this time, and paying attention to the sources of those tensions, those sources of those frustrations is really going to show you, especially at the start of this week, what you need to change and how you need to change it. And as for the Pluto energy, Pluto's stationing to go retrograde in your 9th house. And this is going to be a time where it's really going to highlight deep psychological core issues involving your beliefs, your overarching philosophical, religious, spiritual beliefs about God, the universe, the world around you that frame your reality. Anything that is fear-based, anything that's negative in terms of your beliefs, that's really holding you back from accessing your true potential, from figuring out what you truly believe, right? That's connecting with the truth in your philosophy, in your religious values and belief systems. Anything that's preventing you from accessing that energy, it's going to be up for change, transformation, purge, letting go. And for those who have Taurus sun sign, moon, rising between 20 and 26 degrees, this is actually going to be impacting your identity very positively. This is going to be a slow process of regeneration where you're going to be feeling more empowered because you're going to be sitting in your truth. You're going to be figuring out who you truly are and what you truly believe and connecting those two things. So you're going to be acting in your integrity and acting in your truth more so after this transit completes over the next couple of years. And so this is going to be a time where you can very easily see where you're disconnected in that way, and you can align yourself with your truth, align yourself with integrity, and let go of especially very dogmatic, very fear-based beliefs that are not serving you anymore moving forward. All right, and then for Gemini and for Gemini rising, this energy of the Sun conjunction to Uranus is happening in your 12th house, which is the house that it's the hidden house. It's the house of your past life experience. It's the house of dreams. It's the house of hidden institutions. And it's the house of the subconscious realm. And so one of the things that tends to happen when Uranus is transiting the 12th house is that subconscious rebellious urges come up to the surface and they have to be acted on. And so you might find that on a subconscious level, you're feeling rebellious, you're feeling like you need to change something, but you can't quite pinpoint what that is or how that's going to come about. This could also highlight very unusual dreams, and your dreamscape can really connect you with downloads, with divine inspiration. Uranus is the great awakener, and you can be awakened to stuck, stagnant energies in your life, or that's maybe even connected to your past or or to past life experiences through your dreams, through premonitions, through visions, through meditation. The other thing that happens a lot when you have Uranus transiting through the 12th house is that you might be going through a 7-8 year process of studying and exploring unusual and kind of eccentric forms of spirituality behind closed doors and not really letting other people in on what it is that you're doing. And this could be you studying unusual, anything really, unusual, different, different forms of spirituality, but also just studying unusual information and doing things behind closed doors that's a little bit eccentric and outside of the box, and you're not really going to be ready to let it all out there and let people see, your weird side until Uranus comes and hits your ascendant, which will be happening, in 7 to 8 years, maybe even more depending on where your ascendant is. And so that's part of what's going on here. This could also bring unexpected, shocking energy that comes through 12th house institutions. So unexpected circumstances around hospitals, prisons, monasteries, spiritual places, ashrams, temples, spiritual retreat centers, rehab centers and facilities, all brothels, all of these energies are associated with the 12th house. And so sometimes when people have this energy in the 12th house and it's highlighted very intensely, you can have an unexpected circumstance. Usually it's not with you, it's like your friend goes to the hospital and you find yourself in the 12th house institution unexpectedly or something along those lines. Again, not always the case, and it's not always a negative thing either. You can find that your friend goes on a spiritual retreat and they tell you all about what they learned, and then that brings you into this new realm of spiritual exploration that's highly unusual, especially for you. And then when we come into the Pluto station position, this is happening in your 8th house, and Pluto does quite well in the 8th house because it's kind of like its home house. And so this is going to be highlighting, especially for you, for everyone we talked about this, it's highlighting deep-seated wounds, fears, anxieties, insecurities, power struggles, and especially for Gemini's, power struggles and control issues involving finances, especially joint finances, through marriage, through other people's money, through debt, through taxes, through inheritance, through partnership, through investments. And so there could be some change that comes up in this area. There could be a need to restructure your finances, especially your joint finances in partnership with somebody else. This could be a really great time. I know this is a little maybe dark for some people, but this is a great time to to revise and look at your will and your legacy, right? Where is your money going to go after the fact, right? After you pass on, where are all of your assets going to go? Who are they going to? Looking at that type of thing is actually a really great thing to do when Pluto goes retrograde in your 8th house. Another really great thing to do is therapy. Whatever type of therapy that you feel good about and that really gets you to that deeper level of understanding on like a core level, that's going to be very helpful, and that helps you to purge and let go of any fears, any traumas from the past that are holding you back, that are disempowering you. All right, and then for Cancer and for Cancer rising, this energy here is occurring for the Sun conjunction to Uranus in your 12th house. And so Uranus does really well in the 12th house. That's another one where it's kind of in its home house. And so this is highlighting for you the need to shake things up when it comes to your friendships and your social networks. And so if you've been just, hanging out with the same people since childhood, this is a really great time to branch out, to go and to explore new groups of people, to get some new friends, to connect with people that are a little eccentric, outside the box, unusual, who you might not normally want to connect with. This is a really great time to connect with groups. This is a really great time to join in on humanitarian or altruistic types of pursuits where you're giving back to humanity. But in general, this is a really great time for you to shake things up. You might find that your friendships either begin really abruptly throughout the next few years, or they end rather abruptly. Kind of a mixture of both. You might have some on again, off again friendships that pop in and out of your life, and when they pop in, they come in to shake things up and to change the way that you deal with people on a group level, and then they sort of retreat again. And so you'll have these situations or disruptive situations that come through your friendships that cause you to have to change something again about the way that you deal with people and groups. I don't know what's going on with the lighting here. You can't even see my face. Anyway, so that's the energy of this Uranus in your 11th house. The other thing that's happening is Pluto is stationing in your 7th house, which is the house of connections. It's the house of relationship. And so there's a lot of energy around transforming and changing and renovating your relationships over the course of these next few months or a few years, really. And if you are a Cancer rising sign, especially, or even a sun sign, with the sun or the rising sign, or actually if a Cancer moon sign too, because that's going to be really important. That's going to be more like an emotional crisis that could potentially be coming up for you, or the need to really go deep and to figure things out on a psychic, intuitive level. But if you have a Cancer sun moon rising between 20 and 26 degrees, you're going to be feeling this very strongly with this Pluto station. And so this is going to, especially for Cancer rising, it's going to bring the need to really transform and let go of dynamics in relationships that no longer serve you. And this is not just romantic relationships, this is all close personal relationships, friendship, business partnership, or otherwise. Even family relationships can come under scrutiny. And this is going to really show you what you truly need, want, and desire in your relationships. This could really highlight the need to let go of a certain relationship, or to work through and reconstruct. This is a really great time to enter into therapy, like couples therapy, and to go through a process of reconstruction when it comes to, and deconstruction and letting go and purging when it comes to outdated paradigms and situations that leave you feeling disempowered by your relationships. And so power struggles in relationships can really come up right now and can be a very strong influence as well. And so this is going to show you what relationships you really need to let go of. You might find yourself purging and letting go of certain people and certain situations, and only holding on to the bare minimum and the people that are truly trustworthy, because you're also going to be more sensitive to betrayal and more suspicious and paranoid around your relationships at this time. So you might feel like people are out to get you, or that they're jealous, or you might find yourself feeling jealous of people that you care about and connect with, when that's maybe normally not the way that you think about people, right? Because you're a Cancer, you're very loving and empathic and compassionate and all of that, and nurturing. You might find yourself looking at people under the eyes of greater scrutiny and maybe feeling jealousy, and looking at that jealousy and where it's actually coming from and letting go of that energy is really going to be the best way to utilize this Pluto station. All right, and then for Leo and for Leo rising. So for Leo rising, this energy of Uranus conjunction to the sun is happening in your 10th house of career and public status. And so this could highlight the need to rebel, to break free, to change something involving your career, involving your public reputation, involving an important power dynamic in the workplace. This could also be the need to start or end a really important work-related project of some kind. I don't know why that's not plugged in. There we go. And so this could be, looking at changing things up when it comes to your workflow, changing things up when it comes to your career. If you have your midheaven around that 2nd degree in Taurus, this could highlight the need to really change jobs, to let go very quickly and very impulsively of a work situation that's too stagnant, too monotonous, too boring, that's not allowing you the personal freedom that you need in your work. This is also, taking a look at the need to shake things up and just do things differently. If you're not going to let go of your current position or your current job or your current career path, you need to change it up, and you need to create a situation for yourself that feels more liberating, where you have more freedom and more independence within, the field that you're in. The other energy that's happening, so for Leo, this is all about work. This is all about your career. So Pluto is stationing in your 6th house, which is the house of work and daily routines. So this is a really important time where power struggles that are going on, within your workplace, with coworkers, with people in positions of power and authority even, can really bubble up to the surface. Power struggles involving healthcare and healthcare professionals could come up as well, if that's something that's applicable to you. And speaking of that, the 6th house is the house of health and nutrition, and Pluto stationing to go retrograde, and Pluto retrograde in general over these next few months is an excellent time for detoxification of the body and for looking at nutritional supplements and foods and things like that can really help you to clear out any toxins from your system on a physical level, which will coincide with the psychological clearing out as well. This is a time where you're going to really be honing in on what you truly need, want, and desire when it comes to your day-to-day work routines and experience, and where you might feel overwhelmed on a psychological and emotional level by your work and by your daily routines. And so you might need to let go of certain things and just do the bare minimum throughout this time, especially this week, because putting too much on your plate and being all over the place, you need to focus. Pluto is asking you to focus on one task at a time and to focus very intensely and very passionately on that one task and to do it right. And so that's going to be part of the energy too. If you're a multitasker and you're used to piling too many things on your plate, Pluto is going to help you to purge those habits and to really hone in on what you need to be doing, so that way you can create a better situation for yourself in your daily routines for work and otherwise moving forward. For Virgo and for Virgo rising, so this energy is happening with Uranus conjunction to the sun, is happening in your 9th house. And so you're going to be going through a process of changing it up when it comes to your beliefs about God, the universe, the world around you, your philosophical and spiritual frameworks for this reality. And, this is going to be a time where your belief systems become a little bit more eccentric, a little bit more odd, a little bit more outside of the norm, and where you start potentially studying new areas of higher education. This is a really great time to embark on a new area of study, although you might be inconsistent with it. So you have to be aware of that. If you want to stick with it and to do one thing for the entire time, like if you're entering into some sort of 4, 5, 6, 7-year program, that might not be the way to go, because Uranus is going to constantly need change and new and exciting ideas and new information. And so this is going to be a time where you're embarking on new areas of study very frequently over the next few years. And your beliefs about everything, your paradigm will be shattered. Your beliefs about everything are going to be changing, and they're going to change more than once. And so this is highlighting where, you feel maybe set in your ways when it comes to your beliefs and your ideas and your thought processes, and you maybe need to change that. This is also going to help you, especially if you're a Virgo rising within that first 5 degrees. This energy is going to highlight the need to change something so that way you can have more freedom on a personal level. And so it might cause you to feel a little bit rebellious, but in a good way, to make small, gradual, subtle changes that help you to align yourself with your beliefs and that allow you greater freedom and liberation through that process. The Pluto station energy is happening in your 5th house, which is the house of romance. And so you could have power struggles or really intense energy coming up for you on a romantic level with a love affair or a fling or a romantic partner. You might find yourself feeling much more passionate or much more obsessive over your partners at this time, or you might draw in partnerships that are more obsessive, if that's the case. There could definitely be jealousy issues in relationship, especially, in relationships that are not as deeply committed as you might want them to be, where there could be this need to really hold on and cling to that relationship, and that's really not going to be the way to go with this energy. The way to go is going to be to surrender and to just let it be and to let it happen and to let that relationship go if it's not in alignment with what you truly want, need, and desire. This is also a time where you might start feeling super intense and super passionate about the things that you love to do, about your hobbies, your interests, your creative self-expression out in the world. This is you really figuring out what you truly need, want, and desire when it comes to passion, when it comes to creativity, when it comes to fun. And this is potentially a good energy if you're a Virgo sun, moon, rising between 20 and 26 degrees. This is going to be a very deeply empowering process where you figure out what you truly want to create out in the world, and you embrace that and you become that. And so it's a deeply regenerative, deeply restorative energy on your sun and ascendant in particular that can really help you to feel more empowered, that can really bring back your energy and your zest for life, your vitality, your sense of purpose, your sense of direction. And by the time you come out of this energy in the next couple of years, you'll look back and you'll be like, wow, I transformed who I was out in the world in a big way. I transformed my entire life, and I feel much more empowered. I feel much more confident moving forward. All right, and then for Libra and for Libra rising. All right, for Libra and for Libra rising, this energy of Uranus conjunction to the sun is occurring in your 8th house, which is the house of joint finances, investments. There could be unexpected circumstances that come up around your money or your partner's money, around an investment, a debt, some sort of taxation situation that requires that you deal with it in a new, innovative, outside of the box way. This is not a conventional approach to dealing with financial issues, especially when it's finances that are coming from the outside, or issues, power and control issues involving finances that are coming from the outside. You have to look to unconventional resources and unconventional ways of dealing with whatever comes up. This could also indicate a potential investment opportunity that's highly unusual, highly outside of the box, that you wouldn't normally go for, and maybe you go for it, right? And there could be a lot of ups and downs with these types of investments with the energy of Uranus, and your investments in general will kind of go up and down and all over the place over the course of the next 7 to 8 years. So you have to be kind of quick on your toes, I guess. But it could be something that you really need to invest in. You really need to invest your money in. This could also bring unexpected resources through partnership and marriage. So your partner might come into a really unexpected bonus or a really unexpected debt or bill that you have to help them out with. And so a lot of energy around joint finances, unexpected shocking circumstances that also could frustrate you and show you where you really need to change something when it comes to the money that you share with others. Pluto in the 4th house, which is the house of home, family. This is going to highlight power struggles, control issues when it comes to your family dynamic. This could also indicate you needing to surrender a certain energy around your home or your property, or surrender your property in general because it's not working for you anymore. There might be a fear around surrendering a relationship with a certain family member that really is toxic and negative. There could be a fear around surrendering a certain living situation that is really toxic and negative and disempowering and not allowing you the freedom that you need, or that's not really giving you the structure that you desire in that area. And so that could be coming up for you as well. This could bring up power struggles within the family unit, and especially if you are a Libra rising with or a Libra sun or rising with your sun rising or even moon between 20 and 26 degrees, you're going to be feeling this very intensely on a very personal level. And so this could be you feeling very overwhelmed, feeling like you're going through a psychological crisis that stems from ancestral patterns, that stems from old family trauma, that stems from early childhood experience of difficulty, of intensity, that is dredging up a lot of fears and anxieties and a lot of energy around loss of control, where you might be vying for control instead of letting go and surrendering, which is what Pluto truly wants. It wants you to purge anything in your home. And this is a great time symbolically and just in general on a more mundane level, on a more physical level. This is a great time to purge anything that you don't actually want physically in your home. So get rid of old junk, clean your house. Pluto is about cleaning, purging, detoxing, and do something to really clear the negative energy from your home. Like go through, burn some incense, do some sort of clearing process, invite someone into your home who's an expert in this and maybe allow them to help clear the energy. Do something to really clear away anything that's old and stagnant in your home environment on an energetic and a physical level, and that's really going to help to open up space on all levels to deal with the more psychological and the more interrelational energies that are coming up for you. And then for Scorpio rising. This is a big week for Scorpio because you have, first and foremost, the sun conjunct Uranus in your 7th house. So this is going to highlight the need to change something, to do something in new and exciting and innovative ways in partnership. And so if you're married or if you're in a long-term relationship and things have gotten boring and stagnant and you're doing the same thing day in and day out, you need to change something together. So doing something big, doing new and exciting things within partnership. I know the first time that this dipped in here and it squared my Venus at the same time, my husband and I started rock climbing together, and then we moved across the country together, and now we're renovating a home together. So it's like you have to constantly be doing new exciting things, and there might be a lot of change and a lot of chaos and a lot of frustration going on, but it's going to be good. You need an outlet for that energy. If you're not changing something within the relationship throughout these next few years, things are going to come from the outside, either through your partner or through some sort of external circumstances to disrupt that relationship and to bring the change. And it's going to be more uncomfortable if it's coming from the outside versus you embracing it and just rolling with the punches and moving with the energy. And so that's key this week. And so if you feel very frustrated with a contract, an agreement, a relationship, a friendship, a business contract or partnership or relationship, even a family relationship, this is something that you need to look at, because that frustration, that source of that frustration, it's going to show you where you need to embrace change and do something new, something that you never would have thought of, something that might feel very uncomfortable for you in your relationship, or even breaking old contracts or starting new ones really, abruptly. And you're going to need more freedom and more independence within your relationships as well. And so any relationships that cause you to feel like caged up, or that cause you to feel like you're not able to do the things that you want to do when you want to do them, they're going to be subject to change and potentially endings, and you might have new beginnings in relationships this week too. You might have really new exciting partnerships that come in, and so that could be something that could come up as well. That Pluto stationary position. So for Scorpios, you're going to be feeling this more so. I've noticed, some of the pivotal moments in my life, even when Pluto is not in any sort of specific alignment in my chart, come when Pluto stations. And so it's always a very important week for Scorpio rising or Scorpio sun signs, but especially Scorpio rising, because the ruler of your chart is Pluto, to really pay attention to what's going on around you, because it's really showing you something that you need to pay attention to, that you need to focus on for the next 5 months while Pluto is retrograding. And so that area of focus is going to be very important to pick up on and to understand, so you can figure out what you need to be working through and working on moving forward while Pluto is retrograde. This is also going to be an energy of really looking at dogmatic thought processes, ideas, belief systems, any fears, anxieties that creep into your mind during this time. You might need to release them, let them go. This could bring up power struggles involving communication. This could bring really intense communication in the third house. That's something that I've definitely noticed when Pluto's highlighted. Like a lot of really intense messages and people going through really intense situations and crisis might be coming to you, reaching out to you, calling you, text messaging you during this time period where Pluto's stationing. Those situations are important to look at because they're reflecting something that's going on in your own reality that you might not be picking up on. The other thing too is that if you're a Scorpio rising at the end degrees from 20 to 26 degrees, this is actually going to be impacting your relationships in a positive way. It's going to really help to restore, regenerate, to help you hone in on what you truly need, want, and desire in relationship, and to restructure and transform your relationships in a positive way moving forward, and especially to transform your communication in relationships moving forward, so you have the mental stimulation and the deep psychological emotional connection that you need in all of your partnerships from this point on. And then for Sagittarius and Sagittarius rising, let's pull this one up. There you go. This is occurring with the Sun conjunction to Uranus in your 6th house, which is the house of work, health, daily routines. And so you might find that you're entering into some new routines in your day-to-day life that were sort of unexpected for you. You might find that your day-to-day reality is disrupted in some sort of way, that you can't stick to a routine anymore, and sticking to a stable, static, day in and day out routine in your work and in your personal life is going to feel just very frustrating and very difficult for you. So you need to constantly be doing new and exciting things and incorporating these things into your day-to-day reality. This could also highlight the need to change something when it comes to your nutritional habits or your health routines, and so that could be coming up for you right now. And this could also highlight the need to do something a little different when it comes to your work. And so you might find yourself changing jobs. You might find yourself rebelling in the workplace or doing something to cause a little bit of a stir or a little bit of a ruckus. If you don't do that yourself, it's going to come in from the outside, and it's going to be a little bit harder to deal with. And so you can find that there are disruptive situations going on in the workplace, and they might center around you. And so that could be part of it too. Pluto's stationing to go retrograde in your 2nd house is highlighting power and control issues involving resources. This is going to highlight where the power structures that you're involved in are really harboring too much control over your personal life and over your physical wealth and your resources. And so that if you have any sort of oppressive energy around money, around resources, involving inheritance, involving debt, involving your workplace and maybe the power structures in your workplace, holding money over your head and as a means to control your behavior, right? That's part of it too. That's going to show up, and it's going to show you what you really, really need to let go of in this area of life in order to create space, in order to have this sort of regenerative energy, this restorative energy where something better and more beautiful can grow out of it, that's more in alignment with what you truly need, want, and desire when it comes to your physical, material possessions and your material wealth and the way that you create that through your work. So a lot of energy around work that could be disruptive to you this week. All right, and then Capricorn and Capricorn rising. So for you guys, this energy is happening with the Sun conjunction to Uranus in your 5th house, which is the house of romance, it's the house of passions, it's the house of creativity, it's also the house of children. And so you might find that you're feeling frustrated with maybe something that is going on with a dynamic with your children. You might find that your children are growing up and becoming more rebellious and you have to deal with that. This could bring up an unexpected dynamic that comes up for you in your relationships, especially romantic partnerships. And so this could be a time where you need a little bit more of excitement, a little bit more stimulation, a little bit more of like a shake-up energy when it comes to your romantic life and the way that you deal with partnership. And so this would be a great time to maybe go out to spend time, out in the town to do things that are new and exciting on a romantic level. This is also going to help you to find new and exciting and innovative ways to access your creativity and creative potential and to express that out in the world. So you might find yourself tapping into really unusual hobbies and interested in very unusual things and creative pastimes that you weren't really interested in before. And so tapping into that energy as well. If you're Capricorn rising within the first 5 degrees, this could be highlighting the need for you to change something and to change something in terms of your personal life and the way that you express yourself that's more in alignment with your creative potential and what you truly love and what you're truly passionate about. This Pluto station is happening in your sign, and so especially if you're a Capricorn with your sun, moon rising from 20 to 26 degrees, you're going to be feeling this Pluto station really intensely. This could bring up power struggles, control issues, deep fears, anxieties, overwhelm, really intense emotions that are bubbling up to the surface from a deep, deep place that comes from either past experience, past trauma, past intense situations, that comes from, fear and anxiety that might even transcend this lifetime, and it might even stem from a previous lifetime trauma or experience. It's going to be bubbling up to the surface, and you're going to have to look at it. You're going to have to work through it and work on it and transform it, transmute it, let it go. And so this is going to be a time where you might be feeling more intense, and you might be going through some sort of psychological crisis or an identity crisis, a crisis of aligning yourself with your truth and figuring out who you truly are on a deep, deep level so you can express that outwardly and align yourself with that moving forward. And so your whole life is going to change, and the way that you utilize your energy, your career could change, right? And the way that you utilize your energy through your career and what success means to you. All of these things are up for deep transformation over the course of these next few months, but especially right now, it's going to highlight where you need to transform and what you need to let go of in order to create that space for transformation. You might find yourself feeling more obsessive, more paranoid, more suspicious of others at this time. You might find that your psychic abilities are increased and that they're enhanced, and you're picking up on the subtle nuances of other people's energy and behavior way more so than you normally would as a very grounded Capricorn. And so, it can enhance your ability to be perceptive, but it can also lead you to pick up on things so much so that you're over reading into everything. You're over analyzing and reading too much into the way somebody said something or the way somebody looked at you, and it can cause paranoia and suspicion as well. So there's a fine line there and a balance that needs to be struck between really utilizing that enhanced perception and overdoing it and reading too much into everything. All right, and then for Aquarius and Aquarius rising, this energy of Uranus, the Sun conjunct Uranus, is happening in your 4th house of the home, family, property. And so you can have unexpected, shocking, surprising family situations that come up that sort of change your life in a lot of different ways, because this is your ruling planet, right? So especially if you're Aquarius rising or Sun, this is going to impact you more so than some of the other signs. And especially if you're an Aquarius rising, sun, moon within the first 5 degrees of the sign of Aquarius, you're going to be really feeling this energy, a need for change, a need for rebellion, a need to rebel against your family's expectations, a need to rebel against your upbringing, a need to rebel against family dynamics that are oppressive or that are not serving you moving forward, a need to rebel against any habits or monotony or stagnant energy in the home. This is a great time to do a home renovation. This is a great time to move, to go across the country, to live somewhere different, unusual, exciting. This is a great time to redecorate your home, to rearrange some of that energy and to use it up in a positive way so you don't have, really unexpected, crazy, chaotic circumstances that force you to change something when it comes to your home or when it comes to your relationship with your family. This is you really having to rebel against tradition, especially when it comes to your family lineage. And so that's part of what's going to be coming up for you right now. And especially, again, in those first 5 degrees for Aquarius rising, this could also be you really needing to change something in your relationships, and especially in your family relationships or your marriage partnership. If you live with your partner, or if you're in a long-term committed relationship, there could be a need to really shake things up and do things in new and exciting ways. Maybe travel with your partner, or buy a new home, or move across the country together. These are all, really great ways to utilize this energy. The energy of Pluto stationing to go retrograde is happening in your 12th house. So this is going to be a little bit more subconscious and psychological. This could bring up, maybe somebody working on a psychic level behind the scenes against you. And that could be part of the energy here, because Pluto in the 12th house is the house of hidden enemies. And so you could feel that there's an energy or an entity or somebody that is sort of plotting and planning against you, and on a psychic and energetic level, maybe trying to control you or harm you in some sort of way. And if that's the case, that's something to really look at and take seriously and address. This could also look at hidden power struggles that are going on a more subconscious level, that are more covert within the relationships that seem on the surface very positive. This could also just be you having really intense, really almost like nightmares and very intense prophetic dreams, because your psychic energy and your intuition, it's going to be very much enhanced, especially at night, and especially through visions, impressions, downloads, dreams, that type of thing. This could also bring up a really intense situation involving 12th house institutions that could feel like a crisis for some people. And so it could force you to spend more time in solitude and seclusion, so that way you can do the deep inner work to figure out who you truly are, what you truly need for that Pluto rebirth and regeneration that'll be coming up in a few years. This could bring up intense situations involving hospitals, involving religious institutions like temples and monasteries and churches and ashrams and spiritual retreat centers. This could bring up really intense situations involving prisons, involving rehab centers. There's a lot that goes on in the 12th house in terms of these institutions. And so something might come up for you. It's not going to be for everyone that way. Most people are going to experience this way on a more subtle, psychological, subconscious level than anything else. And this is a really good time to purge any subconscious fears, anxieties, especially coming from past lives, because that's where the 12th house is. The 12th house rules past life experience. So this could be a time for you to purge and let go of this would be a great time for Aquarius rising to do past life regression or to get a past life reading. My friend Ksenia, she does past life readings, and they're great, like astrological readings. And we actually did a video about this Pluto South Node Saturn conjunction that you can go back and watch as well. But yeah, so that's what's going on for Aquarius and for Aquarius rising. And then finally for Pisces and Pisces rising. So for you guys, this energy with the Sun conjunction to Uranus is happening in your 3rd house, which is the house of communication. It's the house of ideas. It's the house of short distance travel. It's the house of your community, neighbors, neighborhood. It's the house of your siblings and extended family members. And so you could have some disruptive, unexpected, unusual circumstances that probably will come about in a more positive way when it comes to a disruption in your neighborhood. Maybe there's construction going on, or there's a little bit of a ruckus. Maybe you're meeting new people who are a little bit different different, eccentric, outside of the norm within your immediate environment. This could bring disruption to short-term travel plans, to your commute to and from work or to and from a place that you go on a regular basis. This could bring a new energy around your connection with your siblings, where maybe you're connecting in new ways, doing new things together, having some sort of excitement on that level. This could bring very unusual ideas and communications that come in and really shatter your thought processes and the information that you thought you had about something that you held dear and that you thought was really set in stone, your foundation, right? Maybe you had a very strong belief about something or a strong idea, you had some knowledge, and that knowledge is being challenged in a way that really rattles your paradigm. That could be part of it too. If you are a Pisces rising or sun sign within the first 5 degrees, this is going to be, especially if you're a Pisces rising sign within the first 5 degrees, this is going to bring positive change and new excitement. It's going to reinvigorate and innovate and cause excitement and positive change in your relationships. So all close personal relationships, but especially partnership and marriage or long-term romantic partnerships are going to be up for positive experiences of change this week. And you yourself are going to want to rebel, but in more subtle ways. You're going to want to be more independent. You're going to care less about what other people think about what you're doing, about the way that you're expressing yourself out in the world, about the way that you're dressing, the way that you're doing your hair and makeup and all that kind of stuff, the way that you're presenting yourself physically. But also you're going to care less about what other people think about your ideas, because they might become more eccentric. They might become more outside of the box and outside of the norm, because you're going to be thinking very differently and in a way that's very innovative, very ahead of its time over these next few years. And so you might express ideas to people that they just don't understand, and they're like, what is she talking about, or what is he talking about? That's weird. But you're not going to care if they think it's weird. You're just going to say it. And so that's part of that energy. Pluto stationing to go retrograde. This is happening in your 11th house, which is the house of friendship, social networks, people that you surround yourself with by choice. There could be power struggles or intense situations that bubble up to the surface involving your friends, involving an important network or an important group that you're a part of. This is a time where you're going to be going through a purge, where you're going to be really surrendering and letting go of situations within groups and within friendships that no longer serve you moving forward and that you don't want to carry with you any longer. You might find yourself ending and purging friendships only to keep the ones that are truly trustworthy and that are truly in alignment with your truth and that really have your back. This could, bring up power and control issues in friendships. So it could bring up some really intense situations where you find out maybe that you've been betrayed, by a friend or by a group of people, and you have to deal with that, and maybe that's where you have to purge. This is also looking at deep fears, insecurities, anxieties, psychological issues, traumas from the past that are buried beneath the surface that involve groups of people and your connection to the group. Maybe feeling, some sort of fear and anxiety around fitting in. That could come up for you this week, and you might have to work through it. It might show you where the work is going to occur over these next few months. And so there it is. Let's see, put this back up here. So that is my forecast for all 12 signs. If you have any questions, you can feel free to comment below. I always try to, respond to as many comments as possible, and I love hearing from you guys. And if you like this forecast and you haven't already done so, please subscribe to my channel so that way you can keep up to date on all of the latest astrological weather. And as always, you can email me, you can, find me on Facebook, or you can book a reading. The link is down in the description below. I will see you guys next week, and thank you again for watching. Bye.